my quilty friends, in today's video I'm going to show you how to make the framed full patch quilt block. Now it's part of my mystery block of the month series, and if you'd like to know more about that and join us, I'll put a link down below. But for now, press your fabric and let's make this framed full patch quilt block. To make this quilt block you'll need 3 different fabrics, and you can find a copy of these cutting instructions over on my website. I'll put a link in the description. So we're going to start with our C and our D fabric that measures 4 1/4 inches by 4 1/4 inches squared, and I've got my D fabric here and my C fabric here and here, just so it's matching that image of our block. Now if you're using directional fabric, just keep an eye on it that it is facing in the direction that you'd like it to. We're going to start off by sewing these 2 pieces together and these 2 pieces together, so I'm just going to face them right sides together, line up these edges and pin. And I'll do the same for these 2. So I'm using a 1/4 inch foot. We're sewing with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm stitching at stitch length 2 and I'm using wonderful confetti thread. I'm just going to start on the very edge and sew all the way along, removing my pins as I need to. I'm going to sew right off the very edge, and then I'm just going to sew my second piece, and this is called chain piecing. It just saves a little bit of time. Coming off the very edge, cutting my thread, and then I'm just going to snip the thread that's holding the 2 pieces together, being careful not to cut my fabric. Now let's press. So now we're just going to set our stitches so that they're set into the fabric, making them stronger and helping our blocks lay flatter. Then I'm going to open it up and we're going to press our seams towards our D fabric, which is this one. Finger pressing, we don't want any creases in here. And when I'm happy, pressing. And then I'll do the same for this piece. So all my settings are the same. I'm just starting off that very edge there and going to sew along the entire edge. Coming off the edge, cutting my thread. So what we can do is just open it up and check that we're happy with how those seams have nested, and that is perfect. If it's not, you need to decide, can you live with it or can you not? And if you can't, you could unpick and try again. Otherwise, just move on, because a finished quilt is a perfect quilt. So now we're going to press our seams open, and this really is a personal preference. If you'd like to, you can press them over to one side. I just think they sit a little bit nicer like this. It's a little bit fiddly, but just press them whatever your preference is. Okay, let's move on to the next step. So making sure our center piece is sitting how we want it to be, and we know it is if our D piece is sitting here in the top left hand corner. Now I've taken 2 of my A pieces and we want to sew them onto each side of our piece here. So I'm just going to take them, face them right sides down, and then line up the edges and pin. And then I'll do exactly the same on this side. Now let's sew. Now we're just sewing down both sides just as we have been with our 1/4 inch seam allowance. When I come up to the seams underneath, I just want to make sure I'm sewing them down in the direction they were pressed, so if you need to, just pause and fix the seams. And let's press again. Now we're just setting our stitches and pressing our seams towards our A fabric. And if you're enjoying this video, please do hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out. I would appreciate it so much. So now with our remaining pieces, I'm just going to place them down so that it matches our image above there. And we want to make sure we're getting our pattern. So I've got my D fabric coming down this way and my C fabric coming down this way, and I'm just keeping an eye on that directional fabric. Now what we're going to do is sew these two pieces to the A piece for the top and the bottom. So I'll just take this piece, place it right sides together, line up those edges and pin. And I'll do the same for this piece. And then I'll do the same for this top piece. Okay, let's sew. Just like before, starting off the very edge, sewing along with my 1/4 inch seam allowance, removing the pins as I need to. I'm going to come off the very edge and then sew my next piece, which is called chain piecing. Coming off the very edge, cutting my thread and just snipping that little bit of thread that was my chain piece, being careful not to cut my fabric, and then I'll do the same on this side. And now let's press. So setting the stitches, and then we're going to press our seams towards our A fabric again. So coming in, just finger pressing, we don't want any creases there. And we'll do that for both pieces. Okay, we're on the home stretch. So once again, just placing down all your pieces so that it matches our image, and do just check that you are creating the pattern of the D fabrics running down that way and the C fabrics running down that way. Trust me, it's easy to get into a pickle, so it's easier to check that now than once you've sewn all the pieces together. Now what we're going to do is sew this top row onto our main piece, pin and sew, and then we'll do the same for the bottom row. So I'm going to just nest those seams again. We've got 2 to nest. Then I like to pin at the beginning and at the end, making sure all those edges are lined up nicely, and then once in the middle. And then once I've sewn that, I'll do the same for the bottom row. And once again, you can just check that you're happy with those nested seams. And now let's press. So setting the stitches again on the seams we just sewed. And then we're going to press them open. Again, it is a personal preference if you want to press them open or to one side. I just think it lays a little bit flatter at this point when they're pressed open. It's just a little bit more fiddly to get that right. And then we'll just give our block a once over. Isn't that cute? So simple, but cute. I hope you enjoyed the framed full patch block, and if you did, will you do me a favor and hit that like button and leave a comment? When you do that, it lets YouTube know that you've enjoyed my videos, and then it gets shared to more people, and it really helps me out. That would mean the world to me if you could do that. And if you're looking for another block, I'll put the link above for last month's block, which was the snowball block. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.